Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another developer journal, actually the 5th journal, and this time is focused on zookeepers and staff paths. So they're bringing in the senior audio designer James Stant and programmer Mr. Johan Holtzhausen to talk about the zookeepers and paths. So I think it's a very neat little article, and I like to kind of do these overviews with you guys because I know everybody doesn't really turn to the forums. I know some of you might be a little more casual when it comes to the news and announcements, and you kind of get your news from me and Jonty and Rudy and Best in Slot. And so yeah, I figured we could just kind of go over this, and I will kind of let you in. We'll kind of paraphrase here a little bit, and we'll just go over the article, and we'll let you know what James and Johan had to say. So basically, James, he starts out with talking about zookeepers are vital in your zoos. They're responsible for the welfare of the animals, the cleanliness of their habitats. They provide the food and water that complements the animals, dietary requirements, and they keep the animals from living in unsanitary conditions. And like we've seen, they vacuum up the poop and they make sure all the animals have decent living conditions. And one thing is, we're not sure as far as actually how many staff members we'll have. We know we'll have the zookeepers, obviously, even the trailer. Remember the very first announcement type of CGI trailer even kind of teased at a little, what looks like to me is maybe like a little nature guide person that may walk the guests around, maybe in little VIP groups, or may just walk around in general, kind of like the entertainers do in Planet Coaster, and they will essentially, gather a crowd around them as they're giving information out about the animals that they may have ended up stopping in front of a certain enclosure. And we know it's not out of the realm too if we're not getting everything that a lot of people request. Like, remember with Planet Coaster, the security guy wasn't at launch, and he made a big splash onto the scene. Really cool to kind of see him, but he was kind of implemented later. So we don't know, like, as far as zoologists and biologists go, we think we've seen a mechanic. Kind of looks like the little person had knee pads on, kind of facing away from us in a screenshot not too long ago. We know we'll have the zookeepers. We'll have the, we know they kind of take on a lot of different roles as far as the sucking up the poop goes, preparing the meals. But other than that, we don't know how many different staff members will drop initially with Planet Zoo. So a lot to keep in mind with that when we're kind of dissecting how many roles these staff people will have to perform. And Johan actually goes on to talk about that. He says your zookeepers have a busy schedule full of preparing food, feeding the animals, and keeping the habitats clean. There's a lot to keep in mind to make sure they perform their roles correctly, and it's important to remember that there needs to be a balance between how many zookeepers are available to look after the animals, as some require more care. So yeah, that is another interesting point. Are, like, let's just say the lemurs going to require more care than the elephants? I wouldn't think so. So that, I think, is going to really delve into you management nerds side of things, as far as, delegating these tasks and stuff and not really missing out on some of the more needy type of animals. He also goes on to say, if your animals don't do their tasks well, they can stress the animals out, if your zookeepers don't do their tasks well, they can stress the animals out, which in turn makes their jobs even harder. The more the animal is moving around its habitat, the more spread out the poop is, and the longer it takes to get cleaned up. So, that kind of makes you wonder too, are you able to, like, assign 2 or 3 staff members maybe to the giraffes in the, if you have your giraffes and your wildebeests and your, your zebras maybe in one large type savanna pen. It's going to be pretty neat if we're able to assign multiple zookeepers as far as making how many you are able to make available to look at the animals. So I'm just wondering, like when they talk about the balancing their performance roles correctly and how many zookeepers are available to look after animals. I'm wondering if like we'll be able to like assign a team of zookeepers to kind of care for certain animals and certain pen sizes. So, and then James says, it's fun watching the zookeepers carry out their tasks. He personally loves watching them prepare food as it offers a glimpse behind the scenes for Planet Zoo players. He said, I make a salad for my lunch every day. So as an audio designer, naturally, I recorded myself for the zookeeper food preparation, knife chops, scrapes, rests, etc. I can't claim to have gone to such literal lengths for the poop scooping though, but the audio team have collaborated superbly on that to give the vacuum a fun, creative, and satisfying array of sounds. So yeah, we haven't actually, got to really dive in too much on the sounds. And if Planet Coaster is any indication, I'm sure James and those guys, they have absolutely knocked it out of the park. And then one thing, too, that James kind of goes on to the next paragraph and speaks about, he says, your park guests may not like seeing these working areas, but as a player, he loves moving the camera into the facility's interior so you can watch the zookeepers ready the animal meals, surrounded by posters decorated with the Planko language. Like all guests and staff in Planet Zoo, the zookeepers do indeed speak the language of Planko. Often they will emote to express themselves when carrying out their day-to-day tasks. So he said you may well hear them exclaim Yadopa, which is hooray in the Planko language, in delight when being trained to the next skill level. For example. So he said, we're also recording new emotes so that if you click on a staff member alongside the UI pop-up panel, an emote will sound to summarize their current mood. You might even recognize some of the voices you hear in the game. For example, one of the female zookeepers is voiced by senior artist Lisa Bowens, who does a fantastic job of bringing the staff member to life. So we'll definitely have to be on the lookout for that, once this beta drops. And Johan says, speaking of park guests not liking being able to see the working areas, staff paths are a new feature in Planet Zoo and are an absolute necessity to keep your park guests happy. Guests will only try and look at animals from standard paths as they try to find a spot as close as possible, which can cause congestion to the overall crowd navigation. If a staff member is getting stuck inside this congestion, it will impact their work roster, and this will snowball in all of their tasks and impact other staff members. For example, if a keeper cannot reach the habitats in a timely fashion, this will impact the animal welfare, as none of your animals will appreciate their food being late. And then also, Johan says there are some buildings in the game that will have a negative impact on the guests as well. So as long as they do not directly get confronted with those areas, you shouldn't encounter any problems. When playing, you'll have to think about the zoo layout, where to place buildings, habitats, and the staff paths between them. Staff buildings come in a variety of sizes, so it's best to plan where you're going to place them before you design the path network around them, or even how you will place your habitats. So, like I said, guys, as far as the management side goes, that brings in a whole nother feature that you weren't necessarily used to in Planet Coaster, as far as needing to hide staff buildings, stuff like that. That was not a worry. This will add another layer of that, of the management side of it. And a lot of us have kind of gone back, and even some of the articles and stuff you've heard written where, Planet Zoo didn't really flex the management muscle, and Jurassic World Evolution kind of flexed it a little too much. That's why I think come November, hopefully come the end of August, September, when we get our hands on this beta, Planet Zoo is going to be a really, really interesting mixture of both of those games. And, like Frontier as a studio and, developing these has learned so much, being able to take from both of these titles. And, like we mentioned, Planet Coaster, absolutely insane on the creative side. And then Jurassic World Evolution, not really at all. Like, we're just now getting to the point where we're allowed to actually place rocks and a couple trees. So they just kind of went almost bare bones on each side of that. And Planet Zoo, I think they're going to absolutely nail it. You've got the nerd sandbox players like me that aren't really ever going to get into the meat of the campaign too much. But then you have the people that love the management side and the campaign side and the challenge and trying to get, underperforming parks working. So all of that stuff. I think every camp is going to be happy with Planet Zoo, and I think they've put a lot of thought into both sides of this world that, kind of all of us geeks get in together and play. And, getting towards the end, James says, it's cool to talk about these features because I love seeing all the reactions to the announcements and gameplay previews we shared at E3 this year. It provided a nice insight into the terrific progress being made by our talented team and our dedication to making Planet Zoo a magnificent experience. And then Johan ends with, it always used to put a smile on my face when I saw you speculate on Planet Zoo before we'd announced it, and sometimes even making zoos in Planet Coaster. We all felt so inspired. Seeing what you've already made in Planet Coaster, I cannot wait to see what you create with Planet Zoo. So yeah, that's always fun to kind of wonder, like, even when I was doing like the weird water park stuff, guys, that some of you guys like, some of you guys hate, and then of course, building the safari park in Planet Coaster, for that whole time, we kind of theorized that maybe we would get a zoo simulation game. We thought it was Planet Safari the whole time. That's what I thought it was, at least. And I've just been having a ball even doing the fake stuff in Planet Coaster. I can't imagine once we actually, get our hands on Planet Zoo and it is not fake anymore. There are real animals we'll be able to play with, real consequences, real habitat design. And like I said, that is going to be pretty interesting stuff, I say, guys. But anyways, I'll just jump on out of here. Definitely wanted to stop by and let you in on this Dev Journal 5 if you haven't got to catch up on that today. And let me know your thoughts down below on this staff and path interaction. And give a big shout out to Shantae for putting all this together, and James and Johan for stopping by out of their incredibly busy schedule and just kind of chatting it up with us a little bit here and giving us these dev journals. So anyways, guys, don't forget to give me a like if you end up enjoying this video, and that kind of helps the engagement and tells the algorithm that you nerds are out there watching this stuff, and maybe it will push it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here. And we will be covering some more Planet Zoo madness as we inch ever closer to Gamescom. And I'm S.Dan Wolf. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out. And I will catch you in the next video. Thank you. See you guys.